on a slave ship. They first say we came here in 1619 on a slave ship named Jesus. But I'm going to tell you about a slave ship that we came over here on that wasn't a slave ship. We came over here in the year 1311 from North Africa under the rule of a man named Abu Bakari. These people, this man and these people from North Africa were called Moors. These Moors ruled Europe for 700 years. Let me tell y'all, this is heavy to me because I live this every day of my life. And I believe that black people should know who they are and where they came from.
Amen.
Amen.
The second group of Moors that come to America came over here in 1727. These group of Moors was very instrumental in making the Constitution of the United States, but we never told about that. We told George Washington and Thomas Jefferson wrote the Constitution. The Moors helped Thomas Jefferson write the Constitution. In fact, Thomas Jefferson wrote 200 letters to North Africa involved in the Constitution. During this time, the Moors, they ran America. We've always been told that George Washington was our first president. That's an untold story that I want to tell you about. That's the reason I call this an untold story. George Washington was known to be the 8th or 9th president of this United States. The first presidents of this United States were people called Moors. The Moors had their own rules, their own civilization set up. They came here. Do you realize the government that we rule and we sit under now was set up by the Moors? The president system, the governing system, senators, judges. Does anyone know why they say George Washington chopped down the cherry tree? The reason they say George Washington chopped down the cherry tree, the Moors' national flag was the cherry tree. After the Revolutionary War had ended and the Moors had helped George Washington and all the rest of the people, George Washington became the president. And the white people would tell you proudly, George Washington chopped down the cherry tree. It's funny to me. These Moors were so important to this country. In the year 1788, they wrote up a treaty giving these men equal rights and equal citizenship in the United States to any other man. Now, they still had slaves. They didn't consider Moors Negroes. They considered them Moors from North Africa. The treaty they came up with, the free treaty, when you hear it on TV, do you have your free papers? This is the treaty that they made up with the Moors. During that same time span, we had another black man. He wasn't a Moor. He was born of a slave. His grandmother was white. His grandfather was a slave. She bought him. This man was never a slave. A great, great American. His name was Benjamin Banneker. At the age of 22, Benjamin Banneker borrowed a watch from one of his wealthy neighbors. He said, "Can I see your watch for a few days?" He took this watch, tore it down, learned every part of this watch, how it worked. This black man took this watch and he built the first clock that run in this country. This clock ran for 50 years before it stopped running. He was 22 years old. By the time he was 60, this man did the survey work for what we call the Federal District, now known as the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
He did the work, and all of a sudden they said, okay, we want somebody to build our buildings. They hired a French man named Laurent. Laurent was hard to work with, so they fired him. So Laurent said, okay, you fired me. Sacre bleu, au revoir, monsieur. He goes back to France. They said, what we gonna do now? Oh, Lord, what we gonna do? Mr. Banneker said, don't worry about it. He worked alongside Laurent, not for him. This is a black man now. He worked alongside him. He said, don't worry about that. I got this. I remember the blueprints, and I'll build your city. Which he did. He built the District of Columbia. When you fly over the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., you see the work of a black man, Benjamin Banneker. Also, when you get to, you saying, okay, we get the Farmer's Almanac. The Farmer's Almanac was invented by Benjamin Banneker in 1792. It was published and wrote for 5 years, 1792 to 1797. This almanac gave the farmers the days and the time. Okay, if it's going to snow today, Mr. Banneker said it's going to snow next week, so we going to do our work today. On this time, all these people that you hear about, they had a man named Ben Franklin. They put him on a $100 bill. Benjamin Banneker did the same exact thing that Benjamin Franklin did. He was a scientist, a mathematician, all that. You know, our people have put so much into this country, we got nothing for it. They gave us nothing. They gave us no credit. And the story that I just told you, anybody in here could look it up on the internet because it's out there for you to see. These black people had gave us contributions to this country that no one can ever take from us. Never, never will ever again will anyone tell me, your people did nothing for this country. Because I know better. I've always known better. My wife and my sons get tired of me talking about black people. I love black people. You know, I told them, I said, I was going to make it short. I said I was going to make it called Untold American Story. This made me almost cry.
Come on, man. Come on.
The Moors from North Africa and the Kemites, which we call Egyptians today. Those people that you see over there in Egypt, they have nothing to do with what's going on, what happened in Egypt 3,000 years ago. When nobody else over there but us. Nobody but us. When the first Greeks went to Africa, they encountered these large statues of half human, half animals. They were amazed by these things. They said, wow, who built this? And these people let you know who they were. It was unmistakably a black man, big nose, big lips. Through the years, through the centuries, they tried to take nose and they blew them off, took the nose, cut them off, so you wouldn't know who you were. But I'm here to tell y'all, anything of any importance in this world, black people created it and they did it.
Amen.
These people from this place called Kemet, what they now call Egypt, created a calendar by the flow of the Nile River that took 365 1/4 day to overflow. They created this calendar for their farm work, for all the work they had to do. They knew when the river was going to overflow. They couldn't do their work. By this, all these things that these people would put together, they say, well, these people are the greatest people I've ever seen on this planet. At the same time, they gave them their praise. The Greeks, they went home. They said, well, you know what? We're going to tell our people something. We made this stuff up. Oh, let me tell you about these fraternities and sororities we just came up with. They stole all that from Africa. When you hear about the Greek sororities and fraternities, those are African things. They got from a place they call Luxor, now known as the Middle East. All that's called North Africa. They more or less changed the name so you wouldn't have anything to have yourself feeling good about. But I'm here to tell y'all, we will always have something to feel good about. George Washington wrote, when they said that something about George Washington, he chopped down the cherry tree. Never for a black man become president again. So they thought.